Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Elevate Your Inner Peace, Spirituality from Every Angle. I'm your host, Lynn Cebulski. I am a tarot reader and crystal reader, and I'll go ahead and introduce my other co-hosts, starting with you, Jamie,
Hi, I'm Jamie Beasley. I am an energy healer. I am an intuitive and a spirit communicator.
and Jeanette.
I am Jeanette Johnson from Denora Johnson Astrology. I've been doing astrology since 2000. I do personal horoscopes, birth charts, and forecasts.
Excellent. And as our tagline says, spiritual insights from every angle. Today we're going to get started with a tarot reading, and then we're going to blend all of our different modalities together and see what we come up with. For today's reading, I'm going to be using the Cosmovisions tarot deck. This is traditionally a past life tarot deck, and so I like to take this out around the holidays, especially when people are thinking about their loved ones who may have passed on or people they haven't seen in a while. I feel like it helps the energy come through a little better. So let's see what the cards have in store for us as we move through the holiday season. Okay. So the first card that I'm pulling is the Six of Lotuses. This is also known as the Six of Cups. This particular card talks about, um, as it relates to the holidays, this would be like our childhood holidays, our childhood memories, things like hearing holiday songs, having holiday rituals, running into friends, spending time with family, all the different ways in which the holiday season brings us joy and makes us feel blessed. And so this is everything from the memories that we have of the past and then the new memories that we're creating. The Six of Cups or Six of Lotuses also has a focus on children. And so thinking about our experiences when we were children, and then also what are we doing to bring new traditions and new connections to the children who are around us now. We are also pulling the past lives card. The past lives card can be any iteration of a past life. If you are deep into energy work and you think about past lives, how was my space stuff, materialized on Earth before, then this is the idea of the people that we are today is not just the life that we have now. It's all of the experience that we have brought with us over multiple iterations. This can also mean if you're not so much of a spiritualist energy person, past lives can refer to the past part of you. Who were you the last time a family member or a friend saw you? Who were you when you were in a relationship with someone? And now you may be in a different place, but this past life card comes up to say, hey, remember who you were and what you did because those memories are some type of tool or have some sort of influence as you move into your future. We are also pulling the Commander card. The Commander card reminds us that we are in charge of our lives, not our families, not our partners, not any other force or person around us, not even necessarily the circumstances that we're in. If we want to have energy sovereignty, if we want to be directing our own lives, we can be. A big part of that, and part of the reason this podcast exists, is tapping into your intuition and looking for alternative sources of inspiration and meaning in order to take full control over your life and your direction. Finally, we have a reversed Weaver card. I'm gonna pull it up right so that you can see it. This is a card that's been coming up a lot lately, and the Weaver card talks about networking. In our time, we think of this as like social media and any sort of digital way that we kind of track and follow each other and make introductions. And it's coming up reversed. My interpretation of that, since this is generally a reading about what's going on as we move into the holidays, I would just take this as a sign to maybe focus less on the World Wide Web of connection and more on the connection with the people who are right in front of you and the people who are kind of already in your inner circle, rather than saying, oh, hey, here's a picture of me in my present, here's a picture of me next to this tourist attraction, and feeding into that, constant consumption mode of like showing your life instead of living your life. We have two crystals that also volunteered for today's reading. The first one is aquamarine. Aquamarine literally means salt water. And so, think of all the iterations of salt water, everything from the ocean that we jump into when we want to take a vacation, the salt water of tears when we're releasing emotion, the salt water of, eye drops and nasal spray when we're in the winter and things are getting too dry. But that's really what this crystal talks about, situations that are too dry, lacking emotion, lacking the water, lacking the flow. And this idea of salt water being something that cleanses energy. Um, Fun story about aquamarine. Princess Diana was a fan of aquamarine, and after she and Prince Charles split, she was seen wearing an aquamarine. And even though she had like lots of jewelry and even several aquamarines, the public looked at this one ring she was wearing and they said, oh, that's a stone of like cleansing and revenge, because it was such a beautiful stone. But there was this idea of cleansing and that ability to cleanse emotion, to cleanse residue, to cleanse toxic feeling, of that kind of being its best revenge, rather than, actions you would take or thoughts you would think against someone who has done you wrong and addressing the hurt that way, being able to just completely wash it away is kind of energetically the way to rise to a higher place. My second crystal is Amazonite, named after the Amazon River, even though it's not found there. This is another crystal that has this bluish greenish color. Whenever we see this bluish greenish color, that is a crystal that connects our throat chakra of communication with our heart chakra of feeling. And this stone is known as the stone of um, it is the peacekeeping stone. It's known as a stone of hope, and it's known as a stone of harmony, compassion, truth, truth with a capital T. Um, Amazonite is good for having tough conversations where you need to get some information out there clearly, but you also need to say it in a way that respects somebody's feelings, in a way where your comments will land in a soft, compassionate way. So, together, these two stones are speaking to some sort of emotional cleaning that needs to happen just for the betterment of people. And then also, as we're moving into conversations, remember to not just speak the facts, but also speak in a way that uses the heart. So that is what I have come up with the tarot cards and crystals for today. I will pass it to my host so we can discuss. Jamie, what were your thoughts about what came up?
So, a couple things. And one of the things that came through, and I think it's because it's the holiday time right now, and that is um, when we have loved ones. So a lot of times, this is a really hard time of year, when you've either recently lost a loved one or they've been gone for a while, but um, they're not part of these holiday traditions anymore. And one of the things that has been coming through a lot when spirits have been coming through to communicate, and that is it's like we we have these expectations of ourselves to keep doing the same thing and to keep doing the same tradition. And sometimes we keep doing this even when it starts to lose its meaning just for the sake of the tradition. Um, and one of the like the perspective that I get from spirits that are crossed over that are no longer here is that we worry too much and we overthink everything. Um, we put way too much. It's like we're putting our energy in the wrong place. And back to what you were saying, Lynn, about not connecting like through social media, connecting in person. And that is what keeps coming through as this is what is more important. It's not the presence. It's not um, even necessarily all of the traditions. It's the gathering. It's the gathering of the people, and it's spending that time together. And a lot of people get stressed out over certain relatives and worrying about certain situations. And we can actually manifest. And Lynn, you were speaking to this as well. If we put a lot of energy on worrying about a family gathering, worrying about the Christmas Eve and somebody's going to be a certain way or something is going to happen. And if we put that energy there, we can actually manifest that to happen. And so one of the things that like keeps coming through from spirits that are communicating is to really just don't anticipate a stressful situation. Just go into it. Let it flow however it's going to happen. Um, but don't hold on or put out this energy that is anticipating a stressful situation. And um, really that the time that we the time that we spend with each other is more important than the activity really that is being done. And the message also that's coming through, and this is very much for like the holidays, is not necessarily it's not necessarily lowering your expectations. It's just being more accepting. It's meeting people where they are. And to not the more that you meet and accept people as they are, instead of having that energy of wanting them to change, wanting them to be different, wanting them to be this or that, right? When you can learn to meet somebody where they're at, um, it makes that interaction a lot easier, a lot smoother, and you're less bothered by whatever the situation brings. And the other thing that was coming through is not to hold on to traditions for the sake of the tradition. It's like saying create new traditions. That's a good thing. That is a good shift of energy. There's nothing wrong with keeping traditions, right? But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with making new ones or changing them up, especially as we lose loved ones. and that energy kind of shifts. And sometimes changing the way we're doing things can make it not as painful around this time of the year when you're kind of creating that new energy around it.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Jeanette, what are you thinking in terms of astrology? What is this showing you as we enter the holiday season?
Well, it's interesting because today is Sun square Saturn. So I think this is the apex of the pressure. I mean, this is basically the last week to go shopping, the last week to prepare. But Mercury is in Sagittarius, and what I'm going to bank on is that it's ruled by Jupiter in Cancer, which we know Jupiter loves being in Cancer. It's its best sign. So I just think going into your family functions with an open mind, like this could go good too. Like who knows? I've got to so many family functions with not a sense of dread, but well, I don't really know. And then it was amazing. And like, why wouldn't it also be awesome? Like that could always happen too. Sagittarius is a sign of optimism. We have a lot of planets in Sagittarius right now and ruled by Jupiter in Cancer. Be as optimistic as possible, and that is what you will manifest. So the sun's going to get close to Neptune around the solstice, and then we have a new moon. So any emotions we have about maybe loved ones, um, release them any way you know how. Go out, have fun, do art, express yourself. Usually this time of year is very hard if we're having emotions about someone that is no longer with us, and the holidays brings that up. But it's a good time to maybe release the grief. You could always still love them, but you don't have to hold on to that grief. And with the new moon on the winter solstice, the solstice is a very powerful time of year energetically. So any baggage you're holding emotionally, especially from this whole year as we go from the holidays into the new year, um, just release what emotional energies no longer serve you. We have a lot of really good weather for that. What else do we got going on? Yeah, I think that's basically the main thing. Like I said, releasing the baggage and optimism, optimism, optimism. That is the theme. And then the planets go from Sagittarius to Capricorn, but that's ruled by Saturn and Pisces. So it's still like working on our emotions. So what are we doing with our emotions? Are we being productive with our emotions, or are our emotions controlling us? Because the card that came up was the Conqueror, right? So we
Yes.
want to conquer our own feelings. It started with, correct me if I'm wrong on, because my short-term memory is pretty bad, but it was the Lotus,
Six of Lotuses. Yep.
the past lives,
Past
the
lives,
Conqueror, and
the
remind me of the
Conqueror,
last one.
and the Reversed Weaver.
And the reversed Weaver. Okay,
Circle gets a square.
don't know too much about the reverse Weaver. You could probably finish the story with that. But the Lotus, like, the emotions, thinking about the past, our ancestors who are with us at this time of the year, and the Conqueror. It's, the Conqueror would be in fire, and we have all these planets in fire. Conquer your spirit, remain optimistic. There's so much energy for optimism and positive emotional release, and be like, you know what? I felt grief, but I could separate grief and love. Maybe I don't feel the grief anymore, but I still love them. I think that's the direction we want to go emotionally this holiday season.
I like that. Definitely this theme of releasing the emotions and confronting things like grief head on has been a repeating theme, I think, over the past few weeks. Um, let's dive in a little deeper about this idea of loved ones that have passed on, because I think some people may not be familiar with the idea of, should I try to, contact this person who has passed on? Can they see me? Can they hear me? Are they mad at me for something? Do I need to apologize for something? Are they okay? Do they still exist? Um, let's talk a little bit about what our experiences have been in general so that people can feel a little bit more safe and confident entering a spiritual space where they're saying, "Hey, I really have some feelings around this person. They need to be resolved. I'm going to sit here with those feelings, and now what?" Does it make an impact? And, are we still connected? What does that look like, or what does that feel like? Jamie, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. So, I'll just tell you what my experience is from the loved ones that I've communicated with, like for other people. And generally, a lot of people worry that, especially if they were not on good terms with the person when the person passed, or if the person passed unexpectedly. Um, my experience is that in the spirit world is light and love. And so it is a higher vibrating energy than we are here. And so as soon as they cross over and they're in that energy, for the most part, they are not holding on to any of the energy that was here, that was of this world. And in those relationships, once they're in the spirit world, really, it's about love, and it's about them just wanting to be around. And most loved ones are around us. Now, some of them will go off and they'll go do other things. My mom is in spirit, and she has let me know that she is in classes and she's learning. So there's things that she's doing over there. So she's not around all the time. But a lot of spirits are. And I believe that a lot of the loved ones that we lose in our lifetime are around us until we leave this world. So, from my experience, reincarnation doesn't happen that quickly. And so they'll still be around, but they're not, they don't hold on to those low vibrational energies. They're not angry. They're not resentful. They're, um, somebody that even was very surly in this lifetime can be the most loving, compassionate person in the spirit world. They take on that persona so that they can learn life lessons and they can help the people in their spiritual family learn life lessons. But when they leave this world, they're back in spirit form. They're and they're returning to a an energy of love and light. So the things that we worry about, like they hear us, they hear us, they see us. Um, when somebody says, does my loved one know how much I love them? Absolutely. They absolutely know it. You don't even have to say it. They feel it. They feel everything. So they feel you mourning, they feel you celebrating. Um, they're very aware of everything that's going on, and they're not they're not holding on to any of the things that we think they're holding on to. They let that go because that those things like the anger, the resentment, the not giving forgiveness, all of those things are very low vibrational energies, and they just don't exist in the spirit world because it's a higher vibration. So I guess that was a very long way to say that your loved ones are around you. Your loved ones are not holding any anger, any animosity, any whatever was going on with that loved one at the time that they left this world. They are not holding on to that anymore. And that we just need to know they're around us. They love us. Um, and even spirits that we did not incarnate with. So we could have, I've had a lot of times where I've had grandparents come through that this person never even met, that their grandparents passed before they were even born, but they're still part of your spiritual family. So they're still around you. They're still sending you energy. They're still sending you love. They're still walking that path with you to kind of try to protect you and to guide you.
That's beautiful. Um, Jeanette, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to that. I know
Yeah,
you see
couple
death from a
things.
different perspective as an astrologer, right?
No, totally. You know, it all ties together. completely agree with Jamie. They're in a place of perfect love and perfect trust. They don't have judgments or insecurities the way we do over here. There really are, not to sound cliche, they're in a better place. So they're coming from a better place. So your worries, like, you don't have to worry about them. They're here for you, you know. If you want to know about your family, you would look at your fourth house or what sign rules your fourth house. That tells you about your family. And then also, what's going on in the 12th house is, past lives, karma, and endings. And I just want to say, Saturn, as we know, is in Pisces. Saturn is, karma. It's a lot of things, but it's basically like, it could be family karma too. And as it's leaving the 12th sign, I feel like I said, we're releasing the emotions of these people. Like, you may have feel a connection with like a great grandmother, like Jamie said, someone you've never even met. I feel like we're just releasing our emotional attachment. Like, the love is still there, but Saturn's gonna get ready to go into Aries. So it's a heavy season of letting go this holiday season, because we're feeling the emotions so intensely with Jupiter and Saturn. But it's okay to say goodbye and, maybe open up your mind to think about other things. Like, you don't have to feel guilty if you're not thinking about them 24/7, that you can get past that. Especially as, Neptune's leaving Pisces, Saturn's leaving Pisces. The grief can just go, but like the love can still be there. And I feel like that's going to be a lot this holiday season. Because some people just aren't with us anymore, but they tend to poke in during the holidays sometimes. Especially around the solstice. It's a very powerful time of year. You could feel like the spirit energy right around the 21st. That veil is kind of a little thin. So if you think you're feeling them, you're probably right,
Yeah.
but just know that they're coming from a different place and they don't think the way you do. Jamie, I'm sure you can elaborate a little bit more on what I'm trying to say. Like I said, like, they don't judge. They're not thinking about the $10 you owe them that you need. They're not thinking about that goodbye that you never got to say. Like, it's such a different perspective that they have.
Yeah. So it just made me think about something where um I had a session and a girl had lost her dad, but I was also um picking up on her mother's energy, and her dad wanted her to give a message to her mom. And it was basically saying, I have no expectations on how you live your life now that I'm gone. All I want for you is for you to be happy. I just want you to be happy. I want you to laugh. I want you to smile, whatever that looks like. But there's they our loved ones, there's no judgment, there's no expectations. They're not looking at us and saying we didn't grieve long enough for them. They're not looking at us and saying you moved on too fast, right? Like, as a matter of fact, what really comes through the most is they really, it's painful for them to see us in pain. Okay. So they want us to do whatever we need to do to move through that grief, and then to figure out what our new normal is without them. But they have no judgment, they have no expectation. They literally just say, I love you, and I your happiness is the most important thing to me, and I want you to have that however that looks to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say they don't judge us if we move on. They want us to move on. I mean, life goes on. I mean, it's our time to be alive too. We don't, like, don't feel guilty about not grieving them. I think that's a lot of people get that confused. Like, they feel if they're not grieving enough, they're doing something wrong. And it's actually the opposite. Like, you don't want to pull on them that way. You want to send them love, not tug, if that makes any sense.
That absolutely makes sense. So, what I'm getting as we're heading into the holiday is this idea of, yes, we have some emotions we need to let go of. very calming colored stone. So there's this sense of being calm as we go into some sort of emotional release, letting those things happen however they happen. If we laugh, if we cry, if we go for a drive, if we have a conversation with someone, whatever it is, to really feel and let go of those feelings with the idea that the only way out is through feel the feelings, and that's what shifts the energy into something else. And then this idea of leaning into the joys, leaning into the happiness, um, not being afraid to make changes to rituals and traditions and the things that we've always done if it's something that's going to create a lift in the energy rather than trying to keep some older tradition alive that maybe is attached to people and circumstances that are no longer with us now. So moving into the future with traditions and rituals and relationships that nourish us and strengthen us and lift us into a more elevated space.
Yeah, family traditions evolve and families evolve. You know, people die, people are born, family structures change, people move on, and you don't got to do it the old way. You could create a new way of doing it. I remember it was like my family separated into threes, and then we just had Christmas Eve at my aunt's house, and we never did that before. And it was like the best Christmas Eve I ever had in my life. But it was just like a new family dynamic that I just didn't expect. So, like I said, having an open mind and like Lynn said, trying new things. Like you don't have to hold on to old traditions because that's the way you've always done it. It's Pluto and Aquarius, power in innovation. You know, do what's good for you now.
And I just want to reiterate what you were saying, Jeanette, and that is um, having positive thoughts, right? Putting that positive energy out there of don't go into this holiday season expecting stress, right? Put the energy out there that things are going to go smoothly, that your family gatherings are going to be amazing, right? Like put that energy out there to have that really, really positive expectations. I know people don't like to do that because they don't like to get disappointed, but you need to understand that your thoughts have energy. So if you're focusing on that it's going to be a disaster, you can literally manifest that, right? In the same way that if you focus on it's going to be the best get together ever, or it's going to be the best Christmas ever, the best whatever, right? Put that energy out there, and that's what you're going to end up manifesting. And also, like you were saying, Jeanette, keep an open mind and just allow things to just flow. Like don't sweat the small stuff and don't sweat the stuff that is out of your control. Just like I a friend used to tell me all the time to be a duck, right? And just let it like roll right off of you. So be
Right.
open.
Why wouldn't it be great? Sorry to cut you off, but like, why wouldn't it be awesome? Like, why does it have to be bad? Like, where do we get this from? Like, where is it coming from? Like, is that a tradition we have that like, oh, family get-togethers are a drag? Like, is that something we need to get rid of? Because that's definitely tradition that I think needs to go. This idea that, family get-togethers is a chore. Like, you don't see these people all too often, but you're related to them. You have karmic connections to them. Enjoy the time you have with him because you don't know how much time you have with him anyway, right? So, I mean, that's a little morbid, but look forward to it and just see what happens, and you may be really surprised.
It ties into this idea of making memories. When we're spending time with people, especially when we're spending time with people in person and not necessarily attached to our screens, we're creating memories that people carry with them. And so the memories we create with people are the energy attached to us that other people carry around when they think of us. And so, yeah, if you're going to see somebody that you haven't seen in a while and you only have a couple hours or a couple days, make it your intention to have a positive, happy experience for you and for them. And, it really does have an impact on how things ultimately turn out. You're absolutely right, Jamie and Jeanette. energy really does have a physical presence. You know, if you're being Debbie Downer, people can feel it on you, even if you're not saying anything. Conversely, if you're in a happy mood, if you're thinking of some joke you just heard and you kind of have a little impish smile on your face, people are like, "Ooh, what are you so happy about?" And during the holidays, we have these emotional pulls, but most of us want to be happy. Given our choice, most of us want to be pulled toward the thing that's making us laugh, that's making us smile, that's making us happy, that's making us feel like the moment that we're in right now, that we don't want it to end. And so, I think this is probably a good place to close today's session. Um, Final thoughts from either of you two ladies?
I have one final thought, and that is if you have a loved one that's not here anymore, and you're really missing them at this time of year, um, let them know, right? Communicate that to them and tell them to any loved one that's not here anymore, you can tell them to give you a sign when they're around. And you pick something that is easy for them to be able to do. And it could be a song. It could be the a smell. Um, it could be any number of things. My dad leaves me pennies all the time, and that's how I know that he's around. And so open that communication up and just say to your loved one, "Hey, I miss you. I really want to know that you're around. Can you please give me a sign?" And tell them what you want to happen to let you know that they're around. Because they are. They're there. They're there with you.
Good
Yeah,
advice.
and I was just gonna say, and you'll hear me say this a lot, do not make up a moment in time. Just go into everything with no expectation, no fantasy in your head about what could happen. That's the worst thing you could do. Open-minded and just, we're gonna say this a million times, just the more you stay present, the more you'll enjoy it.
Okay. And with that, I'm going to conclude our episode of Elevate Your Inner Peace. And we're wishing everyone a happy holiday, happy holidays, whichever ones you celebrate. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Okay.